Hi folks, you're joining us at the Santa Cruz Mission State Historic Park for our live streaming broadcast, Gardens of Time. And today we're going to take a look at the downtown city for a view in just a minute. You can hear the noises right now, but you might be watching from your home. And if you are sheltering in place because of COVID-19, I want to take a moment to appreciate and thank you for doing your part to stay apart while we're all in this together. And if you're looking for updates about the response to COVID-19, I invite you to check out our California State Parks webpage, www.parks.ca.gov, and you'll find updated information about access and closures. And also on the Flatten the Curve page, you can find some suggestions for precautions that you can take if you do get out in nature. Let's look at something that doesn't look that natural. This is an urban setting in front of me. And we're looking at downtown Santa Cruz. I'm going to pan just a bit. And we're looking at downtown Santa Cruz, the horizon from the Santa Cruz Mission State Historic Park. And it's a city scene right there. And we're looking down at the street and the vehicles. But if we had been looking at this scene a couple hundred years ago during the Mission era, of course, we would have seen really different things, and we would have been looking at the row crops from the Mission, right there where our post office and the cupola of the Flatiron building exists now. It was the fields and the crops. And during the Mission times, there were 6 big crops that were being grown. It was, and maybe you can guess what they are. My name is Julie Seidel. Welcome to Gardens of Time from the Santa Cruz Mission State Historic Park. So what were the big 6 crops that were grown? We're talking about some obvious ones and some that might not be so obvious. I want to acknowledge that the Santa Cruz Mission State Historic Park sits upon land of the Awaswas-speaking people of the Iwipi tribe, who were the original stewards of this region. And today I appreciate the opportunity to work, to steward, to learn, and to interpret on the land that was their traditional homelands. I want to recognize indigenous peoples of the past and present and appreciate the opportunities I have today to steward their traditional homelands. So what were some of those big 6 crops? Let's take a look. I've got some right here, some of the harvest. And these are all Mission era crops that we're talking about. And you probably recognize some. We've got pinto beans, we've got corn over here, and maybe you recognize this. Those are wheat seeds, like wheat berries. And those are 3 of the big 6 crops for the Mission era. We would add barley to that, and then more beans. Garbanzo beans were a popular crop of the time. And one more, we're going to walk to another area of the park and hone in on that last crop a little more closely. Let's take When the Spanish first came to this...
I'm going to flip this. Flip it over to this view here.
What are we doing?
We're flipping the view to the other camera. There you go. Go ahead.
When the Spanish first came to this area, they saw native plants. And of course, those plants had a close connection with native people, with Ohlone people, who were harvesting, manipulating, pruning, weeding, burning those areas to regenerate and bring out the seeds, the nuts, the berries, and the greens. that they depended on as their foodways and their pharmacopoeia. The Spanish didn't really see that. They didn't see food plants because they were used to food plants coming in rows. The geometry wasn't the same as what they had experienced in Europe and that they were used to when they were thinking of crops. Crops were row crops. Food plants came in rows, and that's not what it looked like here. So they wanted people to be agriculturalists. They wanted people to grow these foods that they were used to, that they found comfortable. And we're going to look at one of them right over here in our demonstration garden. I'm going right over here, and we're going to look at these beautiful gray-green leaves. Let's look at them a little bit more closely. And we can see the gray-green leaves and these beautiful pea flowers that come in purple and white and pink. Do you know it? This is favas. And if you live here around Santa Cruz or on the Central Coast in the Monterey Bay region, you might be well acquainted with favas. They completely cover the landscape during the winter and are planted as a wintertime cover crop. During the mission times, of course, they were a food crop, and it was the beans that people were in it for. Let's take a look at some beans. I have some right here, and fava beans, when you take them off of the plant, they're really enormous. These pods are 6 inches long, and it's so promising. Such a bright green, so beautiful. Let's take a look inside. We're gonna pop this pod open, and here we go. Look at those great beans side by side. Really large, yummy looking, but wait, this is not the bean. And here is the secret, the trick to favas. This is also a covering, a pod. We're going to open it up a little bit more, and hiding inside that casing, that is our 2-part fava bean. Beautiful, glossy, shiny. That one looks like it's wanting to take root already. But that double layer of covering, this is what makes fava beans somewhat unique and really tedious for many people. It probably leads to why they're not a really popular bean to eat in a lot of cuisine nowadays, when people don't have the time to shell and then shell again. You can start out with massive amounts of pods and end up with, as my co-worker Stephanie was saying, 2 big bowls of pods, and when they were done shucking, it was a cup of beans. But boy, were those beans delicious, she said, and so flavorful. Fava beans are great eating, and they date back a long time. This was a very early plant to be domesticated. We're looking back 6,000 years in Egypt, and still eaten today. And just like this was part of our mission's history here in Santa Cruz, today Santa Cruz still has really fertile and rich agricultural lands, and during the winter, because these are nitrogen fixers and fix the nitrogen, add to the soil, add to the nutritional value of the soil, you'll see them as a popular and abundant cover crop in Santa Cruz winters. I hope you get a chance to drive up Highway 1 sometime and witness the winter fava beans. Try some on a plate, and maybe come to the Santa Cruz Mission State Historic Park sometime when we're open and see our garden for yourself. Thanks for joining us.